Good evening, everyone. It's Monday, March 10th, 2025. This is the regular meeting of your Board of Education of the Glendora Unified School District. It is 6:22, and we will reconvene from closed session where we had some reportable action tonight. Tonight, on a 5-0 vote with Trustee Garcia motioning and Trustee Lopez seconding, we approved OAH case number 202-412038 for settlement. And item 2.8 in closed session, your school board approved a stipulated expulsion agreement for student case number 256306, which was motioned by Trustee Lopez, seconded by Trustee Cam, and a unanimous vote to do that. So those two issues are reportable out tonight. Can we have a roll call for the meeting, please?
Member Garcia?
Here.
Clerk Cam?
Present.
Member Munoz?
Present.
Vice President Lopez?
Here.
President Clifford?
Present.
Thank you.
And we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. It doesn't look like our Diego, is Diego here? No. All right, if you would just put your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an agenda that was duly posted. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item is public comment, 3.6. You have 3 minutes to come up and talk to us as long as you've filled out a form. I have 4 cards in front of me tonight. The first card is presented to Mr. Barron.
Thank you. Good evening, board and staff, Dr. DeGrazia. I'm here to just underscore the fact that I completely support our goal to institute an ethnic studies program. It's the law. We're going to make it happen. But I want it to be the best that we can do. We should be a role model for San Gabriel Valley. We shouldn't just copy what's in the California Model Ordinance or put just our own opinions into the curriculum. And, you know, I've got before me, and each of you, I've handed out a 8-page handout that provides the sections of each of the 8 chapters in an existing curriculum that costs nothing, that has been approved by the state of California and meets the A to G requirements. In other words, it's ready to go. So I would ask, how many teacher hours are going to be expended between now and next year on developing the curriculum? If this outline that has been handed to us to review is all that we have, and that's what we're led to believe, so if you already have the curriculum, but you're not telling us about it, well, that wouldn't be, I think, ethical. So if it's just the outline, then why are we going to spend all this time and money when you are budget constrained? And I just want to show you that if you compare the 4 different sections of the curriculum outline to just the contents of each section, of each of the 8 sections in the handout, you're going to see a vast difference. You're going to see a much richer, much broader perspective and information than what's in the outline. Not only that, but you have access to videos, to articles, to books that support each of those sections that include all 4 sections that you have in the outline. What it doesn't include is the introspection and the intersectionality, which is part of CRT, about who am I, what parts of me comprise myself, and make people look at all different parts of themselves instead of the whole person. You know, we talk about holistic approach. when we do just the opposite, when we start looking at, well, I'm Hispanic, I said, well, I'm gay, which is fine, but why are we bringing those topics up in ethnic studies? So I would say, take a look at this, and if you want more information, let me know. I'd be happy to provide it.
Thank you, sir. Make sure you leave it with the clerk and she'll.
You all have, I
Okay.
left enough copies for each one of you to look at it.
Thank you.
And I would suggest you compare it to your outline.
Thank you. Adrienne Ferguson?
Good evening, and thank you. I want to begin by recognizing that the Ethnic Studies Committee did not have an easy task in creating a new curriculum, but I believe the layout and foundation is good and something that will benefit our Glendora students. I do want to make sure that when the curriculum is being taught, that an emphasis is not put on the triumphs of the groups being studied, and that struggles are not merely being discussed as stated in the course overview. I believe a greater influence on what we, as I am a woman of color and therefore part of an ethnic group, have not yet achieved: racial equality. Ethnic groups continue to struggle today, and what we have accomplished so far should be stated as such and not be taught as placing ethnic groups on a level playing field with each other. Also, your curriculum does not address that various forms of oppression and discrimination, such as racism and classism, cannot be taught in isolation. I saw no mention of teaching through a holistic approach to social justice, where multiple identities and oppressions are discussed through intersectional activism. Finally, I'm wondering if there is a contingency for students whose parents do not want them learning about other ethnic groups, especially those in Unit 2, which discuss race, economic status, and conditions of servitude. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kate Hamilton?
Good evening, school board trustees, Superintendent DeLeon, and other board members. I am Kate Hamilton. My son is a product of our Glendora schools, and he's now in college. I had the honor to be a member of the Ethnic Studies Community Committee, and it was an enriching experience in many ways. Because there were people with education experience on the committee, I learned a lot about the complexities of developing curriculum and have a much greater appreciation for the effort our teachers put into their profession before they ever begin to teach our students. I am confident that our teachers take their profession very seriously and they want to give their students the best experience possible. The committee was also enlightening because it was quite diverse and all members had the opportunity to contribute to the discussion. Questions and concerns were posed and I felt that real dialogue and discussion occurred. Each meeting was very full, and it always seemed the meeting end time came before we were ready to leave. So I'm very thankful to the previous school board for enabling this committee to exist, and I've been happy to be a part of it. Thus, I am here to voice my support for ethnic studies curriculum. America is incredibly diverse, but the history we've all been taught has primarily been from an Anglo-European perspective. The goal of ethnic studies is to accentuate the contributions of those cultures that are often not included in our country's historical narrative, and where possible, to give this narrative a local flavor. The LA County Library System, before every online program, reads a land use statement acknowledging the Native American tribes who inhabited these lands before us and the challenges they've endured to survive. Redlining and restrictive covenants work to deny African Americans from buying homes in Glendora, and that was only outlawed in 1968, just 57 years ago. The Japanese internment that occurred during World War II affected many local families, including our own beloved donut man, Jim Nakano, who was interred at a camp as a young boy. And well-known landmarks such as the LA County Fairgrounds and Santa Anita Racetrack were detention facilities during this time. And the citrus industry that was so instrumental in the growth and wealth of this entire area, of course, brought in scores of immigrants from Mexico. And we all know how the immigrant situation is very much in our current news today. So the Ethnic Studies program has at its heart the objective of helping students consider the stories of another group, empathize the perspective of another's experience, to celebrate the challenges that have been overcome and critically think of ways to avoid these situations in our society today. I ask for your vote in favor of ethnic studies. Thank you.
Thank you. And my last card is from Wendy Jarvie.
Good evening. I've written to you via email recently with some of my observations about the overview, and just reading what was posted on Friday, I don't see much difference. One, I'll just highlight a couple of things from my observation. One of the sample themes that's in the overview that is also in, it comes straight from the model curriculum, and I just want to be sure that what we're putting forward to the kids is not the model curriculum, because also in the model curriculum is theories and pedagogies and research that I've highlighted here, and I'll submit it for public record, that encourage teachers to use critical race theory. And if I'm seeing in our overview the same language that's in the model curriculum, which I've read is full of critical race theory. So I don't have confidence in the overview, especially reading Unit 5. It is so vague that anything can be inserted in that section. And I want to just reiterate that I like ethnic studies. I think it should be taught. And I'm sort of a history nerd, so I like learning about the history and the other cultures, but I'm concerned that if this is too closely aligned to the model curriculum, that we're going to end up with activism. And the kids are not going to be learning history and culture and all the good things that this outline wants to build, empathy and understanding, but there is an open door for activism. And so I don't have confidence in especially Unit 5 of the overview. And if it were me voting on it, I don't think it's ready. I would vote no. So I'll leave this for the public record. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further cards, so I'll close the public comment period at 6:35. Thank you very much. That moves us along to our student board member report, for which we have none tonight, I'm guessing.
That is correct.
Okay. That'll take us to comments from the board.
I can read it I have the student board report,
Oh.
so I will read it. Yeah,
didn't
he's just
know
not,
that.
he's just not here tonight.
Okay, I did not know that. So you go right ahead.
So tonight, we'll be reporting on Lefetra, Sellers, Goddard, and Whitcomb. Lefetra Elementary. Lefetra has been busy. We wrapped up February with a wonderful second grade patriotic program where students sang songs and recited poems and quotes by famous Americans. Our PTA also hosted a mother-daughter do-it-yourself night, which was a fun and memorable experience for both the children and their moms or special adults. This past week was especially eventful. We held parent-teacher conferences, giving parents and students the opportunity to meet and plan for a strong finish to the school year. We also kicked off our spring fundraiser, which will help fund the many wonderful events we host at Lefetra. In celebration of Black History Month, we treated students to a laser show, which they absolutely loved, especially the music they recognized from incredible artists. Our school also participated in Read Across America Week, promoting literacy and a love for reading across our campus. Looking ahead, we have our third awards assembly this month. We are excited to award students with amazing academic successes and their positive behavior. Lastly, our school is eagerly preparing for our open house at the end of the month. Sellers Elementary. Sellers celebrated their book week for Read Across America the week of February, the last week of February. Students dressed up in crazy socks, competed in a bookmark contest, and listened to different community readers read to their class. It was a fun week filled with love for literacy. Kevin Bracey performed his assembly Greatness Talks for Sellers Vikings on Thursday, March 6th. The students were inspired by Kevin's assembly and words of encouragement and wisdom. Parent-teacher conferences this past week were a great success with great parent turnout. On Friday, February 28th, we celebrated our second trimester Vikings Award for academic excellence and citizenship. We also celebrated the award winners from the PTA art competition, Reflections. Goddard Middle School. ASB had its big night dance on February 28th. The theme was Lights, Camera, Titans with a Hollywood feel. Students dressed to impress on the red carpet. The dance lasted from 5:30 to 7. PTA served up yummy refreshments and desserts. The students really enjoyed the dance with their friends. On Tuesday, March 4th, we had our quarterly recognition lunch. Recognition lunch is an event where teachers invite a student to a special luncheon to award students for working hard, being kind, and being the best they can be. PTA is instrumental in organizing the delicious lunch. Track and field practice started Monday, March 3rd after school for all grade levels. Our coaches are Jeff Espino, Zane Jackson, and Juan Uribe. 8th grade students attended Future Tartan Day on March 6th. All 8th grade students received goodie bags and swag. The event allowed our 8th graders to learn more about Glendora High School. Wickham High School. We are preparing for our WASC accreditation visit and recently submitted our report. Our visit is scheduled for April 14th through the 16th. Ms. Shibata and Ms. Delgado attended the APC meeting on Monday to discuss possible transfers from GHS. From our meeting, there are 3 confirmed transfers. On Tuesday, March 4th, 25 juniors and seniors attended a special senior day event at Mount Sac College. Students enjoyed touring the campus and learning about the programs at Mount Sac. This event has planted the seed of higher education for our students. Our counselors are putting the final touches on our career day that is scheduled for next week, Wednesday. Currently, we have 11 presenters confirmed for the event. We are excited for the careers that will be presented. The third quarter ends next week. We are encouraging our students to stay motivated to the end of the quarter. Teachers and staff have voted for the Students of the Month for February. They are Savannah Acosta and Jesse Vargas. These students were chosen because of their improvements in academics and attendance and showing great character in overcoming personal challenges. We are proud of our February Students of the Month. They will be recognized at our quarterly recognition brunch at the end of March. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about those? All right. We will move then from the student report to the comments from the members of the Board of Education, starting with Trustee Munoz. Are you ready to roll?
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, last week I plan on visiting some schools actually this week, but last week I was out of town, so got to enjoy a nice break. I haven't had a break in over a year, so it was nice to take a little vacation. But I see a lot of the public here and their concerns for the ethnic studies. I saw that, and I appreciate everyone coming here and giving us feedback, because we want the best for our students, and I believe ethnic studies is a good thing. We just want to make sure it's right, and so we love hearing all that feedback, and I appreciate every one of you that came up here and gave a statement today, and just understand that we're addressing and hearing everyone's concerns. So, thank you.
Trustee Lopez.
Not much. I haven't had a chance to get to a lot of events here at Glendora, and but I do love hearing everything that's going on with Miss Cornelius reading all the things happening. So a lot of stuff going on in Glendora always, and it's always good. So that's it. That's all I have.
Trustee Cam.
It has been busy, which has been fun. It's been really cool. We got to do I went to Goddard for the recognition brunch, breakfast, lunch. I don't know what we call it. It was all over the place. They did it in 2 rounds, so it was really cool. There were so many people to recognize, which was great. The orchestra festival was incredible. It was a lot of fun to get to see all the students really, really come together from the middle schools, and then also the high schools were so impressive, which was wonderful to be a part of. It's been a busy couple of months, I should say. I feel like, I was going to say weeks, but I feel like it's gone on for a while, which is good. I always would rather be busy than bored, but I know I've been diving into all kinds of research and publications and talking to multiple school districts and people at all different levels about the ethnic studies curriculum. So it's not a lack of preparation on anybody's part, which is really wonderful. It's great that it feels like the board is so informed, and I really appreciate it. And we'll have ample discussion later, which is really exciting. But I do appreciate the community coming out, and I want to thank the district for publishing everything online, so everybody had an opportunity to look at it, which is great. It's always good when we can bring the community together. So that's been kind of rumbling around. I also wanted to ask, do we have any updates on the potential for generators at the DO yet, or did we get any?
I know we were in the process of meeting with some private companies that provide such services, and we're also connecting with the city to hear about their services in some of their city locations
Cool.
that they utilize too. Yeah.
Good. Just making sure we're always prepared for everything. So that's been really good. I'm excited. It's going to be we're ramping up again into the end of the year stuff, which doesn't even seem real, but it's funny. I'm looking at my calendar and everything's blocked out for different events, and it's exciting and it's fun. And so I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, we'll keep things going.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to give a full-blown report. I echo that it's been a very busy time, but not as busy as our principals preparing their presentation, as everyone doing all the work, the first interim, second interim. So I'm going to just yield my time so that we have more time, since we were running a little late after closed session for them.
Thank you, I agree, and will represent that remark. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Goddard staff and teachers that attended the lunch with us. It's really fun. I think there's probably 10, 12 students in there with their teachers being honored, and we get to have lunch twice, which is even better. It tastes better the second time. But it was just a nice event, and it was very positive, and I felt the room and the students uplifted as a result of the nice things their teachers were saying about them. I had an opportunity to read to our school children at Sellers and at Sutherland, and it was really fun. And it's no secret that I like to read Clifford the Big Red Dog books for the reason that is right there on the front of my plaque. And so in one of them, I gave them a choice, and they picked Clifford, and then the other one, they picked another book, but I still snuck Clifford in there with them. And it was just really nice. Dr. DeGrazia and staff, our campuses were beautiful. The children were just outrageous, and the libraries and the teachers involved with the read-in. And in fact, I saw the other trustees up there too when we were taking turns in and out of classrooms, and I thought that was phenomenal. I'm gonna leave our athletic update for the superintendent. Lots of good things happening in the athletics. And Director Garcia, I remember you wanting to talk about the track and field in Glendora, so I want to get that on the agenda. And really, we want to continue that discussion, and I will yield my time to our speakers and talk later on those issues. So you're up, Dr. DeGrazia.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, distinguished guests. My comments are brief also this evening. Just a reminder for all that March 17th, no school. All school sites are closed on March 17th. That's not in celebration of St. Patrick's Day, although you may think it is. It is an opportunity for us to place one of our holidays in the month of March to allow for the long run that March usually is and break that up. And then so that when students and staff return on Tuesday, March 18th, there's a 2-week, a little less than 2-week run prior to spring break, and they'll get the rest and rejuvenation all equally deserved. April 18th, Glendora Education Foundation SIP and support. We'd like to invite everybody to that. It's their annual fundraiser with a little twist. This year it will be held at the American Legion Hall. They'll transform that place. It will be held at 6 p.m. on April 18th. Tonight you're going to hear from Business Services, Ms. Walzak and Mrs. Medina, in regards to the second interim. This is that mid-year report, our financials, status of the financials in the district, and being good stewards of our dollars. So you'll hear good news there. Special congratulations to 2 fine students at Glendora High School. There are many. To single out a couple, earlier in the year we honored and recognized 2 National Merit semifinalists, Carter Prince and Dia Ravi Shankar. They have now been named finalists. So top selections across the state, and they will now receive scholarship money consideration for its outstanding level of education and testing that they've demonstrated in the past. 5 Palomar's 5 student athletes have been named and recognized. So it's special congratulations to Tatiana Espitia, Dylan Flores, Colton Gray, Samantha Sachs, state champion wrestling, first ever state champion of any kind, individual or team in the history of Glendora High School, and also Madison Zubo on their selection as GHS's Palomares 5 this year. Congratulations to all of them. They'll be honored at a banquet coming up soon, and we will bring them to the next school board meeting, as we will Samantha Sachs, Carter Prince, and Dia Ravi Shankar. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that, and athletics were just incredible to us this year. The next item we have is item 5.1, which is the Cullen Elementary presentation by the principal, Mrs. Wendy Farinato. Welcome.
I asked Sarah if I could yield my time. She said.
Yeah, I like those phrases. You can yield. That's a good one, though. You get an A for effort.
It's worth a shot.
But remember, you are in charge of your time, so there you go.
Well, then let's get started. Good evening, President Clifford, board members, and superintendent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight to share a day in the life of color. I don't have a button. I wish I had a wand, but I left that home too. Something's gotta work. Thank you. I hope you guys have a copy of that, because I'm not sure you can read it, but the data shows that students are holding fairly steady in both English and math. Most notable is the increase in our student math performance. We are also incredibly proud of our English language learners and the progress that they are making in their language acquisition. Science continues to be a focus for us as we work to implement the newly adopted curriculum in a meaningful way. I do feel that it's important to point out that last year's science test is only given to 5th, 8th, and 11th graders for information only. It's a test on the curriculum of 4th and 5th grade science, covering the areas of life science, earth science, and physical science. Yes. Our subgroups are looking remarkably better this year than last year, with a decrease in our chronic absenteeism. All the yellow there and the chronic absenteeism last year were red, so they made a 2-color jump, which we're really excited about, and we are hoping that we can continue that throughout this school year. Our students with disabilities are still in the orange for ELA. However, these students are receiving the services in their individualized education plans to help ensure they have equitable access to their grade level standards. I'm happy to report that our suspension rate remains very low. We believe this is due in large part to our Cullen Condor Code of Conduct. This code is referred to in most behavior correction conversations and serves as common language when student behaviors are being addressed. At Cullen, we're very proud of our students and the increase of students who exceeded the math in the area of math standards. The teachers at Cullen have been consistently using a variety of digital math programs that support number sense, math fluency, and reasoning in support of our curriculum. Additionally, they have been very purposeful in providing the students with opportunities to practice through problems using the interim math assessments. They're also called the FIAB. They do this as a whole group, then in small groups, and then independently. This gives the students an opportunity to see how the test platform works, experience with the tools. It gives students a chance to ask questions and clarification on how the questions are being asked. Our chronic absenteeism declined significantly from 18.1% in 2023 down to 9.1% last year in 2024. We are hopeful that it will continue to come down as we get closer to what it was before COVID. The English language learners are making steady progress in reaching California language proficiency. However, they are struggling to show their progress on the CASP test. We are hopeful that with continued designated language support for these students, we are able to help them towards this goal. The scores in science are an area we would really like to focus on moving forward. We have the newly adopted curriculum that teachers and students are continuing to become familiar with. We also have the added support of our STEAM support aide, who's here with me tonight, who is helping to support some of our more extensive science lessons in the STEAM lab. There are several things at Cullen that I feel are worth highlighting and celebrating, so I'm only going to name a few. One of them is our Million Word Reader Club. It is something that Ms. Mowdy started years ago, celebrating the students that read over 1 million words. We currently, at this point in our year, have 22 students who have read over 1 million words. These students work hard all year long, and many of them are working to beat their scores from last year. Mrs. Mowdy does a wonderful job celebrating these students and encouraging a love for reading. Right now, our top reader, a 4th grader, has read over 7 million words by herself. The Academy, which is our intervention room, continues to provide much-needed support for a number of our students. Mrs. Bayless and Mrs. Maisel have created an environment that promotes learning and acceptance. The math intervention groups have shown that 84% of students have had an increase in their STAR math scores. 100% of our students in the Read Live program have increased their STAR reading scores, and 54 students that have been in the reading intervention, of the 54 students that have been in reading intervention, nearly 30% of them have tested out. The students are encouraged to learn through games and a variety of other engaging activities. Thanks to GEF, we have the addition of the STEAM Lab and an art teacher, Mrs. Denny. Both of these programs have been a tremendous asset to our campus, and the students love every opportunity they have to go to STEAM, TK all the way through 5th. It has been fun to watch students of all ages have the opportunity to explore and learn through STEAM. The art that the students are producing is also outstanding and rather impressive. We are looking forward to celebrating the students' hard work at a family art night, which you're invited to, and a talent show, April 24th. Our wellness room and the student support specialist, who is also here with me, continue to provide invaluable support for our students. Mrs. D supports 61 specific students on our campus, and often others as those needs arise. She is currently seeing 13 students individually and 12 groups of varying sizes. In addition to that, she opens her classroom at lunch on Tuesday for 4th graders, on Wednesday for 5th graders, and she also helps support our PTA with Yellow Ribbon Week and Kindness Week. And in addition, she helps our student council as well. Our student council has continued to find opportunities to serve the community of Cullen. They are our PTA ambassadors for all of our events. They create slides and go into the classrooms, presenting to the younger kids to promote our upcoming events, to explain what's going to happen so they understand the event that's coming and try to drum up interest to get them to attend. They also help create signs for our Spirit Weeks, and they've held small fundraisers in order to make donations to local charities. This year, Cullen's Mod Severe teachers eagerly took on the task of making our campus more welcoming for their students. A few of the teachers led the school in lessons that taught the students how they might navigate an interaction with a student that might seem different than them. Additionally, we added a quiet space to our PTA family events to create a more inclusive environment for those families with students who may need to take a break. I am hopeful that Cullen can continue to work towards becoming a more inclusive school for all of our students. This year, the staff and I wanted to look for ways that we could invite the families back to campus. The leadership team talked about having a day set for parents to come to campus, and Cullen Community Fridays were born. This has been an amazing opportunity for us to come together as a community and to celebrate any number of things, be it the kindergarten alphabet parade or our veterans on Veterans Day. This time has allowed me to share about the monthly character trait from our Character Strong curriculum at the start of each month. While there have been a few hiccups, like a couple of rainstorms, I am looking forward to seeing how this event continues to grow in the coming years. Cullen is always finding ways to make learning fun and meaningful. Benjamin Franklin has said, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I will learn." That is exactly what we're trying to do. Our family STEAM night was fortunate to have the fire department come out this year to help us with our egg drop competition. We had numerous STEAM activities for the families to participate in with their students. The kindergartners again all learned about 100 and the numerous ways you can make 100 on the 100th day of school while also dressed like 100-year-olds. Our fourth and fifth graders shared in the sweet success of victory at the district track meet, which really I just had to throw in there because we won. And they got to practice teamwork also, which is good. We also have continued to expand our campus celebrations of the many wonderful cultures that are represented by our student population. This year, we were really lucky. During Hispanic Heritage Month, one of our moms, who is an author, came and read her book for us about her childhood and her Cuban roots. The staff at Cullen truly are the heart of the school. There are numerous staff, both classified and certificated, that have dedicated much of their adult life to education. Many of them continue to pursue degrees and certificates that will help them be better equipped to serve the students at our school. Certificated staff have been participating in restorative practice seminars, and through the Educator Effectiveness Academy program, they are learning how to use Canva and how to incorporate AI in their classrooms, among many other exciting topics. Certificated and classified staff alike have been getting their CPI training, which is Crisis Prevention Intervention Training. It is an added benefit that the staff genuinely care for each other, celebrating life's moments, whether it's a graduation or the birth of a new baby. Any excuse, really, for them to have a party. One of the highlights for me was the beginning of the year staff picnic. I wish the pictures at the top were a video so you could hear the sounds of laughter and excitement, like friends being reunited at the end of summer. It was so much fun, and I am really looking forward to doing it again this year. Cullen PTA continues to pour life into the school through the hard work and dedication of the students and staff at Cullen. This last year, they funded the refurbishment of all of our handball courts. Our family events like bingo night, trunk or treat, book fair, science fair, and the holiday stroll continue to be huge events, drawing hundreds of families and creating opportunities for students to make lasting memories. PTA also funds and plans student assemblies like the BMX assembly, the net assembly, and the imagination machine will be coming tomorrow. While PTA knows how to throw a party, they also fund and support our student field trips, our subscriptions to Scholastic News and STMAP. They support our teachers during conference week with lunches, and they celebrate our staff very well during Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. Cullen would not be the outstanding school it is without our PTA. Sorry, it just keeps going. In the end, our goal goes beyond the bounds of academics. With the use of the Character Strong program, we will continue to strive to help our students develop the character traits needed for them to be successful in every aspect of their lives. The future I see for Cullen is one where kindness is the foundation of all we do, where respect is given to the students and staff alike. I see a place where cooperation and teamwork make the environment one where people feel supported in the pursuit of their goals and dreams. Responsibility is shared and taught as a means of independence, where challenges will be faced with courage and perseverance to overcome them. We want Cullen to be a place where creativity is celebrated and encouraged, where we will learn to listen with empathy so others know they are cared for. We will practice gratitude, knowing it makes for a more positive attitude, and we will be honest, so Cullen can continue to be a place where trust abounds between students, staff, families, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll bring it back. Are there any questions for the principal?
I have a couple. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your presentation very much. 2 questions. One, can you introduce your staff that's here with you? Because I know you pointed to a couple of them, but if you could tell us their name and what they do at Cullen.
Amelia Stoll is our STEAM lab tech and resident technology guru. If anything doesn't work when you click it, she fixes it. Heather Lance teaches 3rd grade and is my 3rd and 4th grade team lead. And Shannon Duke-Machen is my student support specialist.
Thank you. I know them all, but I wanted to make sure everybody else knows them. And then I've asked this question to all of our principals, and I'm sure you've been watching, so you know what I'm about to ask.
I have it written down right now.
You mentioned a lot of celebrations, which I appreciate, but I didn't really hear a lot about opportunities for improvement, and I know we all have them. With that said, if you could mention a couple of areas that you guys are working on, and what can we as your board do to support you with those opportunities?
So definitely wanting to work on science and making sure that we're implementing the curriculum across all grade levels. Trying to bring those scores up as they start to carry more weight moving forward. Additionally, streamlining our IST process, so it's hitting the targeting our younger students without it having a negative connotation attached to it, if you will. We
Can
do
you
three-
define IST just for the
three-
purpose
Our
of?
ISTs are intervention support teams, and you typically have 3 ISTs before you would move forward with assessing a student. And if you have all your ISTs when they're in kindergarten and first grade, they're very young and they haven't necessarily had an opportunity to really grow yet. So trying to find ways to implement those supports in a meaningful way when they're in kindergarten and first grade. So looking at a way to do that with my kinder and first grade teams. And as far as what you can do, continuing to support the programs that we have in place that are providing services for our students that are so much needed. Programs like our student support specialist, the intervention programs, art and STEAM, things like that, that really help the students thrive in their learning is super helpful.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit, can you tell me a little bit more about the Cullen Community Fridays? Is that just like an every Friday thing, and what?
No.
Okay.
It
It seemed like a lot. When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes, that would be a lot. It is the first Friday of the month.
Okay.
And at 8 o'clock, parents can walk their students to class. Way back in the day, when my kids were going to school, we could walk them up to the classroom. We would stand outside the classrooms and wait for them to be dismissed, and that's just not the way it is anymore. Yeah. But with the demise of that, we lost a lot of the connection with families. Parents and teachers don't get to see each other face to face as often. Yeah. And parents don't get to see their kids' classrooms. Kids don't get to show off their work to their parents throughout the year. So it's an opportunity for students to be able to show their parents their classrooms, for parents and teachers to see each other. I ask my staff to have their doors open at 8 when the campus opens. And then when the bell rings at 8:15, the kids line up like they would for a fire drill, and the parents gather around in a circle. We do the pledge together. We do the Cullen Condor Code of Conduct. And it's just kind of evolved from there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it continues to grow. But it's been really fun.
That's
Have
so
everybody on
cool.
campus again.
That's so cool. What a great thing. That's amazing. One of the other things I wanted to ask was I just wanted to mention is obviously there's a ton of highlights, which I really appreciate from your presentation tonight. But I loved also the rebranding of the academy. That's so great. It's like such a great way to encourage students, and it clearly is having an effect with some of the rates that you're talking about and people getting out and making that progress. So way to go, and keep up the great work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I wish I could take credit for it. That was Katie Bayless and Stacy Mazel's idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome.
A lot of green and blue, which is really, really good. I mean, your scores are really good. They're amazing. So a testament to the work that you guys, that you do, that your staff does. I appreciate the connection piece, because that means a lot to kids, a lot to students, and getting the community back on the campus means a lot to everybody here in the district. So that connection piece matters. So, but no, good job. You're moving forward. You're getting better. Appreciate the work on the CAS scores, but everything else it looks like it's going really, really well for you. And the rebranding of the academy, taking the positive, right, instead of the negative look at the intervention, making it's different, right? So we want to be positive all the time with kids, and moving towards kindness is awesome. So great job. Great job by you and your staff.
Thank you.
Briefly, likewise from what Mr. Lopez's comment, I like seeing the green and the blue. So I mean, a lot of, schools, we all have goals, but your system that you have in place, it's working. So I just encourage you to keep putting in that system, because you're meeting your goals through it. And so I do appreciate that. I like your presentation, everything that Cullen's about, and I love the spirit and kindness, and so I just want to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Wendy, thank you. You're truly a tenured veteran when it comes to this stuff, and I appreciate that. You can take credit for that stuff, because even though other people did it, if it didn't go right, you'd be here too. So I appreciate I appreciate you acknowledging the people that helped you do that under your facilitation, is the way I like to put it. And again, Dr. Naharro is going to teach me how to say these things better soon. But to me, 85% of your students tested in 7 subgroups tested meeting or exceeding the standard in math. And that's phenomenal to me. When I look at the 7 subgroups and I do the mathematics of what happened, that's good. I think I said that right. In addition, I appreciate hearing your focus on science because I'm not as pleased about the science as I am with the math. But these math scores are incredible, and the blue and the green are incredible to me. So continue to focus on that. The energy and enthusiasm that you have for being collaborative with parents, I think is awesome too. And I appreciate your feedback tonight, so thank you. Any other comments? Okay, with that, we will take that and file it and appreciate you, and you can sneak out and you're done. And thank you very much to your staff that was here tonight. It was nice to see y'all. Okay, the next item we have is 6.1, which is a recommendation to the Board of Education to adopt Resolution 24-25-13, recognizing March as National Nutrition Month as presented. Dr. DeGrazia.
Yes, we wanted to bring this forward. We do so annually to recognize the month of March as National Nutrition Month. And with thanks to our Director of Nutrition Services, Erin Meza, and her fantastic team here at the district and at all sites.
Excellent. There's a nice resolution here. Is there any feedback from the group?
I just want to mention that as a parent of 2 kids at the high school, the feedback has been very positive as far as the changes to the nutrition program. So I want Ms. Mesa and her team to know that they may not say thank you, and maybe they will, I don't know. But the feedback is getting home, and they appreciate it so much so that my son doesn't have breakfast at home anymore. He waits, which is a little hurtful. But I'm glad that he enjoys his meals at school. So thank you for the work that they do, and I'm glad that we have, hopefully we appreciate them every single month, but that we have this recognition.
Thank you. I got the same feedback from students, specifically at Goddard, about how excited they are for their breakfast and their lunch, which I thought was really nice to hear from a middle schooler. I think there's been some drastic improvements just over the process and the change that they've implemented, so I think it's really good. So unless there's any further comments, I would like a motion to adopt Resolution 24-25-13, recognizing March as National Nutrition Month.
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion and there's a second. Is there any further discussion by the board? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Therefore, it will be duly noted and posted and presented to the staff. Thank you. The next item is item 6.2, which is approval of the sale of Chromebooks to the public as presented. Dr. DeGrazia.
Yes, this is offering our students, our outgoing students as seniors, an opportunity to purchase their Chromebook at a very reduced nominal price as we circulate new Chromebooks into our system each year annually. So it's a way to give back to them. Many students often will ask us the question, can I keep this? I'd love to continue using this resource. This provides them that opportunity, first ever opportunity. It was brought forward very creatively by our Chief Technology Officer, Ms. Christy Espino. Thank you for that, Christy.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions of the superintendent?
Just as far as the software and things like that, once they take it, I'm assuming that their Google account and those things are deactivated, so it becomes theirs, or does that stay with it for the life of the?
We'll let the expert answer that one.
Ready.
So the Chromebook doesn't actually have software on it. It's a totally like a netbook, completely web-based. Their account, though, as with typical senior graduating practice, their account will become deactivated when we do our Aries rollover in July. So once we roll over to the new school year, the old school year is purged, and all the students that are no longer enrolled are deactivated. So their account will become inactive. They'll no longer have access to it. So I have prepared some instructions for students, graduating seniors, that they'll get multiple times in different ways about if they do choose to purchase their Chromebook, then the steps they'll need to take to basically like factory reset their device and enroll it with their own personal Gmail. So there will be step-by-step instructions for that. And just like last year, they'll still get information about using Google Takeout, which is a service that Google offers, so that when they leave, they'll be able to retain all of their own educational record that they may have on their Glendora account. So it's a simple process where it just allows them to make copies and transfer everything to a new personal Gmail account. So they won't lose anything, but they'll have to transfer it into their own personal Google account to continue using it.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Garcia?
My question is, two questions. What will be the cost to our students? And the second question is, what if students don't want to keep it? Will it be available to community members or at the Glendora Give Center? What's the backup plan?
That's actually a great question. So once they're tagged, there is a spreadsheet attached to the agenda item. That's all of the devices we've identified as senior Chromebooks. We've just isolated it to Glendora High at this time, not to Whitcomb, not that it won't be available to them. But a lot of times we hold off on counting the Whitcomb 12th grade as checking out at the end of the year. Sometimes they need a little more time or a little less time, so cutting off at the end of the year is difficult because of the pacing of their school year. So we've identified all of the 12th grade Chromebooks. There's about 500. It's a longer item list than that because of the chargers that are included as well. So it looks a little longer. It looks like 750 items. It's really only about 500 Chromebooks. And so if they choose not to take them, we will still collect them back through our circulation system. They're still tagged for sale, and so we can make them available, say, for instance, to students from Whitcomb or to maybe some of our adult education students who want a Chromebook to be able to work on their GED or things like that. So we can make them available for sale through Glendora Gives or the public. At this time, since it's the first time we've offered this, I don't know what the response rate will be. So I think we'll have to kind of cross the bridge of how much volume we have when we get to it. But I think that it's meant to be a benefit that is kind of a win-win. The district has the ability to offer it to students. They can continue their education or career goals using that Chromebook that they're already familiar with. And we have the benefit of being able to, offload some of the physical labor of managing the devices and tracking them all. Most of the work we'll do after the fact will be digital. So in regard to even the software questions, we have to deprovision them all. So that's where the $10 comes in. We can't just gift it because we do have to charge a minimum amount so that we can cover the labor required to remove it from all of our systems. Yeah.
Any other questions? No, thank you. And thank you for clarifying that. I saw 30 pages of Chromebooks, and then I noticed that they have the Chromebooks, and then there's some Lenovo ones versus other ones. Then there's some power cords, and then there's some adapters. And you would think that could all just be one package and one number to make your life easier.
Yes.
But 3/4 of that list was power cords and adapters, which you probably will never see again, let alone.
Yeah, and you would think that it would be, combining it would be great, but so many people lose their power cord, and they need a new one checked out, and so it has to be individual so that we can scan them both.
When they lose it, they have to pay for it, right?
A replacement cost
Right,
to,
okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you. If there's no further questions, may I have a motion to go ahead and sell these if they want them?
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion,
I'll second.
and there's a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, buy your Chromebooks. 6.3 is approval of the 2024-2025 second interim report. However, that report hasn't been given to it. Wait a second. It's all gonna be one in one package. So we're gonna have the presentation, then, okay, perfect. So I don't have to turn this over to Dr. DeGrazia. I can give it right to our CBO.
Okay, do you have the clicker? All right, no, you can have it. All right, good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent DeGrazia, staff, and community members. Thank you for joining us tonight for the presentation of the 2024-25 second interim report. This report provides us an update of our district's current financial status, projections for the remainder of the year, and a look ahead at our multi-year financial outlook. As part of the annual financial cycle, school districts in California are required to prepare and submit periodic updates to make sure that we remain fiscally responsible and we can meet our financial obligation in the current year and the 2 subsequent fiscal years. So we're looking at 24-25, 2025-26, and 2026-27. So part of the components of this financial cycle is the adopted budget, which we approved before July 1st, the first interim report, which we report on in January, and it covers the period of July 1st through October 31st, and then the second interim report, which we are currently presenting tonight, covering the activities through January 31st, and refining the financial outlook and looking at projecting the rest of the year. And then in May, we do the governor's May revise, which when we prepare the budget for the 2025-26. And then the unaudited actuals, which will finalize the close of the year. So this process is basically just to help us, accountability and transparency, not just to our community, of course, as well as our school board and the rest of our school families. And then tonight, we're going to be reviewing some key updates since the first interim report, which includes changes to revenues, expenditures, multi-year projections, and some of the major financial challenges ahead. We're also going to discuss a little bit about the governor's January budget proposal and how it's going to impact our district. Here at Glendora, we remain committed to responsible financial stewardship and ensuring that every dollar goes to support student success while maintaining a strong fiscal foundation. So we can begin by,
Okay, I'm going to go over our second interim adjustments. So we typically will look at any of our revenue and expenditure allocations and do any routine changes as far as, looking at our actuals and adjusting or decreasing if we need to. We update our categorical revenues and expenses, as well as our expenditures based on the most current data. And then we also update the LCFF projections. So by second interim, we have certified our P1, so we have a better idea of what our average daily attendance is. So it does affect our MYP when we're looking at our LCFF updates. So our average daily attendance for the 24-25 school year, we are using the 3-year prior average because it still is the highest of the funding methods. So you are either funded off of your current year, prior year, or the 3 prior year average. So based on our 3-year prior average, our funded ADA for 24-25 is 6,185.94. Our current ADA is 6,135.90, which is a funded difference of 50.04. So in this slide here, we're just illustrating our historical enrollment. For the 24-25 school year, our current enrollment is 6,369. The projected enrollment for 25-26, we show a slight decline of 6,294, and for the 26-27 school year, 6,244. This is our historical funded ADA. So for the 24-25 school year, our funded ADA is 6,185. For the 25-26 school year, our highest funding method is now the prior year. So our 25-26 funded ADA is 6,135.90. For 26-27, we're also using our prior year ADA, and what that is 6,063.90.
I just want to emphasize, so if we're looking at, in comparison to 23-24 and 24-25, we had a decrease of 310 ADA, and that's just because the years have fallen from when we were able to use during the pandemic. So now those years are gone. So we're actually just now looking at our last 3 years. So you'll see a significant decline in our ADA from last year to this year.
All right, so I'm going to go over our general fund unrestricted revenue. So we did report our revenues to show you the unrestricted and the restricted side. So this slide is going to illustrate the unrestricted side. So at first interim, we had a projection of 78.2 million. At second interim, that has been updated to 78.8 million. 8 million, so that's a difference of an increase of 621,699. And then our general fund restricted revenues, at first interim we were projecting 19.8 million. At second interim we updated that to 20.7 million with an increase of 930,747. So this chart here illustrates both the unrestricted and restricted revenues. So you can see 76% of our funding is from LCFF sources. Now I'm going to go over the general fund unrestricted expenditures. So at first interim, we were projecting about 64 million in expenditures. At second interim, we updated it to 64.6 million with a increase of 655,158. The restricted side of the general fund expenditures, at first interim we were projecting 41.9 million. At second interim we updated that to 42.9 million, and so that is an increase of 952,247. So this pie chart here shows you both the unrestricted and restricted side. So as you can see, the majority of our expenditures are on our salaries and benefits. So salaries and benefits are 78% of our total budget. So here we're showing our unrestricted general fund balance. So when we did unaudited actuals and we closed the 23-24 school year, we had an ending fund balance of 16.7 million. At first interim, we were projecting an ending fund balance of 14.8 million. And at second interim, we have updated it to 15 million. So there was a slight increase in our ending fund balance from first interim to second interim. These are the components that make up our ending fund balances. So the non-spendable is our revolving cash and any store's inventory. And then we have our 3% reserve for economic uncertainties, as well as our additional board required 3%. So you can see here that for 23-24, our ending fund balance is 14.8 million, and our updated fund balance for second interim is about 15 million. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jeanette for our MYP assumptions.
All right, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, part of the things is we have to project out the next 2 years. So these are some of the multi-year assumptions that we're using. So for the enrollment projection, we are using, for current year, we're at 6,369. We're projecting it to decrease by 75 at 6,294 for 2025-26. And then for 26-27, another 50 at 6,244. Our projected current year ADA is for 2025-26, 6,042. And then for 26-27, 5,994. However, for funded ADA, for the next for 25-26 is 6,114.24 and 6,042.24. And the funding methodology that we will be using for the next subsequent years are the prior year method instead of the 3-year prior average, because that's yielding the highest ADA for us. And then cost of living adjustment for 25-26, it's 2.43 originally. When it first came out last year was 2.93, and then during the January budget revise it went down to 2.43. So we'll see where we end up at the May revise, if that's going to stay or if it's going to increase or decrease. And then for 26-27, COLA is at 3.52%. Our UPP, or unduplicated pupil percentage, is it's projecting to go down. So for 25-26, we have 29.92, and then for 26-27, 27.36. So for statutory benefits, for certificated staff, we have 22.01% for the next 3 years. For classified, however, it's increasing just a bit, and that's because of the PERS rate. So PERS rate for next year is projecting at 27.4%, and then for 26-27 is 27.5%. So the total for classified is 36.51 and 36.61. So looking at our LCFF funding for 2025-26, we have 76.4 million, and 26-27 is 77.8 million. And in comparison to our first interim, there's a slight increase in LCFF, and that's due to the enrollment in ADA for the 24-25 year being a little bit higher than what we had projected, and that is about 500,000 for 25-26 and a little over 800 for 2026-27. And then now projecting out our general ending fund balance. So for 24-25, we have 15 million, and then 25-26 is 13 million, and then 26-27 is 9.3 million. And so we still are deficit spending of 1.6 in the current year, and then almost 2 million in 25-26, and 3.7 million in 2026-27. And then the components of the general fund, the unrestricted general fund, as Araceli had mentioned earlier as well. So we have the 3%, and then another 3% from board required reserve, and also the unappropriated unassigned. So the next slide is the general fund contribution to special education and the routine restricted maintenance. The routine restricted maintenance, that's a required component from the state. So we have to contribute 3% of the total general fund expenditures to routine restricted. So for the total general fund contribution for 2024-25 is 15.4 million, 25-26 15.3, and then 2026-27 is 15.5. What are some of our budget challenges? So, as we mentioned, the declining enrollment and the ADA impact on LCFF funding. So, of course, we have with the declining enrollment, then our funding decreases as well. And then we continually see an increase in pension contribution, and then the rising costs in employee benefits and operations, facilities needs and maintenance, and then, of course, addressing the learning loss and student health, mental health. So some of the key things that were mentioned during the governor's January budget proposal is, like I said earlier, the COLA is decreasing from 2.93 to 2.43%. One positive thing is a possible one-time discretionary funds for learning recovery. And that's a proposed allocation to support student academic and progress post-pandemic. However, the allocation or the amount that the district will be receiving have yet to be determined. So hopefully during the May revise, we can get more information on that. Another plus is the special education funding adjustment. Which is increasing and improving the allocation formula for districts. However, the costs continue to rise, which requires the general fund contribution. So we're definitely monitoring the changes in the allocation formula and how it's going to impact our special education budget. And then next is the school nutrition expansion. So additional funding is proposed to continue the universal meal programs. And so with that, it's an investment to continue access to meals for all students. However, operational costs and staffing requirements must be assessed to make sure that the program is sustainable. And then lastly, the expanded mental health services for students in the state investment in school-based mental health resources and partnership. And so we're looking at state funding for additional student mental health will enhance access to on-campus resources. And so we're looking to align that with what we're getting to the services that we are to provide our students. District certification. So the district is certifying the second interim report as positive, which means that we'll be able to meet our financial obligation for the current year and the subsequent to fiscal year. And then it is required by California Ed Code 42130-42134 to certify whether the district will meet its current financial obligation as well as the next 2 years. What are the next steps? So our next steps will be to submit a report to LACO for review. It's due on March 17th. And then our P2 ADA report is due in April. And the P2 is really important because a majority of our funding, the funding model from the state allocation is based on that. And then in May, we're going to hear the governor release his 2025-26 revise. And then after that will be our June budget hearing on June 23rd, as well as LCAP. And that wraps up our presentation for the second interim. We want to thank the board for their support, as well as the district leadership and our community members.
Thank you very much for that presentation, and I know there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of things the board is working on and the executive cabinet to make sure that by year 3, the numbers are balanced, and I think there's some good things happening there. So we'll bring it back to the board. Are there any questions on the presentation?
It's more of a need for clarification. First of all, thank you for this, always a pleasure. And I feel like I understand it now, which is great. Well, actually, 2 things. One, can you clarify, you said that now you're using the prior year's ADA instead of the average of the 3. Is that an option that we have, and you're just choosing because it's a greater number?
Correct.
Okay, so, and then as far as, how long are we going to be able to use the 3 or the prior, because that was gonna change at some point?
They have not said anything, so currently that's still the formula, whether it's the current year, the prior year, or the average of the 3 prior years. So we're still using that formula.
And then my other question is more about the general fund contributions to our special education costs. And Dr. DeGrazia is over there making a face because he knows where I'm going with this. I really would love to understand that more, and I'm sure our community would love to understand that, because that is a huge, it makes a huge impact on our budget, and I know the needs are there. It's just a matter of is there another way of funding this? And I know part of it will require advocacy from this board at the state level. I do have a meeting with both Senator Perez and Blanca Rubio tomorrow. So I ask you, what do you want me to ask for? What would you like me to advocate for when it comes to these things?
So thank you for asking that question. So the funding model for the special education is really, there's a lot of expenses related, as you all know, related to special education, but we're not receiving the funding necessary to at least break even. So it requires our district, as well as I believe most of the districts in the state, to have to contribute to special education using the general fund dollars. So the advocacy to do a different funding model to be able to support or sustain the expenses related to that would be really, really helpful. Any other feedback?
One of the items that has been talked about at the SALPA, because they also advocate on behalf of the districts in our SALPA, is federal funding. We don't really get much federal funding. So being able to give districts more federal funding for special education would definitely help.
And then, do you see that some of these changes with the Department of Education that's coming from our new administration is, you say we don't get a lot of money from the federally. Do you foresee even less money coming through if?
I hope not. Not that we've heard of.
No,
I
we
know.
have not
Yeah.
heard
Okay.
of anything related
Okay,
to that.
good. All right, thank you. So I will make sure to mention this in tomorrow's
Yes.
meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Quick question, was there any indication as to why the COLA decreased? Did the governor give any indication as to why that was?
There
Or-
was no indication as to why. Another reason to, not a reason, but one of the things too that could possibly affect what happens in May is because of the fire. So that the fires now, here in LA County, you don't have to file by March 15th for the business, or April 15th. You have until October, not just to file, but to pay your tax liability. So if you had an estimated payment due in January, you have until October 15th to pay that. So when you're looking at the projection of the collection from taxes, then that affects when they're doing their projection for how much money they have. That really plays a role on what's gonna happen in May. And when it came out, I think a couple of weeks ago, it did come out that even now, their collection for the big three taxes are a lot lower than what was projected.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, sir? Thank you very much. I just know that when we hear this, I want the public to know that the board and the executive cabinet are working on things vigorously to be able to react to what's happening in the external environment. Potentially we can get more federal money, or when we meet with our local state people, they can help us. I sent some grant information from Judy Chu to Dominic today, and I think that hopefully you'll have those conversations with our two state representatives tomorrow. But can the executive cabinet speak on what's the name of the program that we put together that you presented to us to talk, what was it called?
Fiscal stabilization.
Yeah, the fiscal stabilization plan, and it's the board's intent to meet on that and then present to the public steps that we're taking to be able to make sure that we can meet our budget without taking from the reserves. And I think that we're on the right way. I would argue that we're on the right track to do that sooner than later. Before the results of that should impact potentially year 2 and the year 2025, 2026 in a positive way.
Do we have an indication of when we'll know about upcoming enrollment for the new year? Because I know sometimes when we're projecting these losses, but when we have these plus students, it changes the outlook entirely.
Yeah, the most difficult to predict, of course, is transitional kindergarten and kindergarten. However, Dr. Nahara would, as she nods her head there, she knows that some of the numbers are coming in at those grade levels stronger, especially TK, especially TK, than any other grade, than in the past. So that's what we have to compare it to, is the past. Stronger at this point earlier, that's a really good sign, really good sign.
Yeah, at the preschools and things that I'm at, because I haven't registered yet, but I will, for my T-Care. But I've had parents find me and say, you know, we really want to get into Glendora. Where do we start? How do we do it? And so I think I talked to Dr. Osborne and said, I had 3 people in a week come and tell me, you know, they're looking at. So I'm hopeful that our trajectory will look a lot better if we can be on the positive side in our student enrollment, and then it changes the outlook on everything, and our projections can get a lot better, and it strengthens the financial stabilization plan, and we're all, you know, feeling really nice. So that's the hope, but it's nice that, you know, you guys have done such hard work in getting us in a place where we know that we're doing everything we can for our students and staff, so thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Now that we've had our questions, I'm gonna bring it back to the board and ask if there's a motion for approval of the second interim report. We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, is there any further discussion on the issue? All those in favor? Any opposition? Thank you very much. That moves us on to item 6.4, which is
Thank you.
which is approval of the ethnic studies course outline as presented. Dr. DeGrazia.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford, members of the board. I'll send it over to Dr. Prince for a synopsis or summary of the item.
Yes, so Assembly Bill 101, which was approved on October 8th, 2021, updated Education Codes 51225.3 and 51226.7, which are related to pupil instruction requiring the implementation of a one-semester ethnic studies course. Glendora USD Social Sciences content expert teachers collaboratively developed a semester-long ethnic studies course, incorporating feedback and input from the Ethnic Studies Community Committee, which led to multiple revisions. This outline will meet the California state graduation requirement, commencing with pupils graduating in 2029-2030 school year. Staff offered an overview and background and context of the program, reviewed the proposed course outline at the February 10th, 2025 board meeting. GUSD parents and community members were invited to provide input on that course outline, and the input was transcribed and shared with the Board of Education. The course outline has also been available on the district website since February 21st, 2025, and it is recommended the Board of Education approve the Ethnic Studies course outline. This would begin with implementation as a pilot program in the 25-26 school year, as outlined in AB 101.
Thank you. I was just looking over the report as you were talking about it. So we have a report. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the ethnic studies outline. And I'm going to bring it back to the board and ask if there's any questions on the presentation.
I have a question, but more so maybe hoping that you can help clarify some concerns that I have heard in the community, and we heard it tonight during public comment, and you explained it so eloquently during closed session. And I would like to know if you can tell us what intersectionality means as it relates to the ethnic studies curriculum.
Yeah, so intersectionality is really looking at all the components that make us who we are. So it's not just one part of you. So for me, for example, this is the example I gave in closed session. I'm an American, I'm white, female, Christian. I had a strong female role model. I grew up in the Midwest and then moved to California. All of these different things come together and weave who I am as a person. So not just one element. And that's different for each person, and it really helps us to realize not one thing defines us. And also within each person, you can have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences, whether you are within the same ethnic group, same gender, whatever the case may be. So it's all the things that combine to make us who we are.
Thank you. I wanted you to say it out here because you really did sum it up in the way that I understood intersectionality to be. But I also understand and respect that there may be some confusing ideas of what that may be in this world of ethnic studies. So thank you for clarifying that. I'm grateful to the staff and the community that helped create and develop this very, I would say, it's a very curated curriculum for our school. And I know that we had a public comment today suggesting a different curriculum, but I believe that at the beginning of all this, what the community wanted was for us to create something that wasn't cookie cutter, that wasn't, something that was provided by the state. And of course, there's going to be things that you take from other curriculums that's like, it works for us. So I'm sure there is some of that. But I think for the most part, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this is something that was intentionally created for Glendora to represent our demographics and our students. Am I correct?
Yes, that, and mind you, there was, I came in 2 years ago, and the committee was meeting for me, so I can't say the complete origins, but I know we have really been working on customizing this, and yes, we've curated a lot of different things, but our teacher team has been very cognizant of what works for Glendora Unified students, for our GHS kids.
And I also can attest as a board member that we have had plenty of opportunity to take a look at this outline of the curriculum and ask questions to you individually, to Dr. DeGrazia, and really kind of just dig in and ensure that this is being implemented in a way that will be beneficial to our students and that it will meet the requirements. So I just wanted to thank you all and also bring to the attention of the community that we have had plenty of opportunity to ask all the questions and that this has been a long process and that I appreciate all the work that has been done by both the community members and the teacher committee and of course your direction as the head of that. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, I have a question. So I know we've been presented with the outline. I mean, is there any chance that we could look at the whole, like the curriculum? Just, because I know your definition of that. I just want to make, just see if that would be available to us.
Yes, so the teachers are, we're working on portions of the lessons. The course outline is what is needs to be board approved per AB 101. So that's what we presented to you guys. Yes, there are lessons that we can certainly bring. They are by no means a complete curriculum at this point, but there are sample lessons that we can absolutely bring to the board to look at. Yeah.
So they're currently, it hasn't been board approved, the course description hasn't been board approved yet. But I'm sure there's an idea, well, I know there's an idea. I shouldn't speak in generalities, because I know what's going to happen. And having that committee, having the teachers come in, but also having our community out there. And again, I think everybody who has made comments, I think everybody who's been involved with the process, because it is a process, right? I have to say because I don't think originally our teachers were involved. And so getting the teachers involved was a huge step. And I have to say, having been in the district for a lot of years and then being outside of the district, our teachers are good. They do a really good job of taking a course description or taking a framework and developing lessons that are, for lack of a better word, I'll say neutral. They will present it in a way that is professional and that and is done with class, as the way Glendora always does things. I know there's been a question of, do we need to pilot? Well, people will say, well, no, we don't necessarily need to, but yes, we do, because the curriculum will evolve. This whole course will evolve. This is the first time out, the first step, and it's never perfect, right? We know that with everything that's always been developed by the state, that it takes time, and we will take steps, talk to kids, what worked, what didn't work, right? And then we're going to adjust. There is a standard curriculum that's been presented, absolutely. Teachers always in the classroom will bring in outside resources, right? You're gonna pull from here, you're gonna pull from there, because that's what teachers do, right? To make sure that we're getting a full perspective of what the course is supposed to be. So I trust that our teachers will do that or have done that, and we'll continue to evolve, move. It'll be versatile as we move along through the first few years of trying to develop this course.
Any other questions of the presenter?
I have a lot, I'm sorry. So, okay, let's start, let's see. So I know one of the things that was really beneficial, I think it's important that we talk about, is that there were startup funds from the state for all of the incredible work that you have put in, and the people at the high school and all the people here at the district office and all the teachers, and it's been a lot of work, and I want to acknowledge that first and foremost and say thank you. To my understanding, we had a few options. We had embedded in a course that was already that we already have. We had create our own course and accept LACOs or a model curriculum that was presented, correct? And we decided to forego the model curriculum and forego the embedded presentation and create our own, which has been all the work that has been done to this point. That startup funding that we had gotten from the state accounted for a lot of that work that you all have put in, correct?
Yes, we were originally allotted back in 2020, 2021, $25.57 per student, which was a little over $61,000 for us. And the purpose of that money was to be used for training, curriculum development, adoption, resources. And yes, when we looked at, one of the first things I did was brought in our teacher committee because they are the experts. And then I took over the community committee and we really looked at lots of different options and went with developing our own. A lot of those are curated, like Trustee Garcia said, but yeah, so we had that money. We do have some of it set aside for exactly the revision process that Mr. Lopez talked about. As we start teaching lessons, you know, it all sounds great in your head and then all of a sudden it flops. Or it didn't sound as great and it went amazingly and the kids say, I want more of that. So we did set aside some of that money for continued revision.
And is any of the money going to go towards, I'm assuming that like reading materials, activities, things that would be part of this curriculum?
There's actually very little need for that. Most of the stuff we have resourced has been public domain type information, so we can get it for free and or digitally. So.
Yeah, and the few components that are making this complicated. I'll just say complicated. I think that most people really appreciate the course, and I'll speak for myself because I won't speak for anybody else. I really love the course, and I think it's great. I love that it's a pilot and we can add to it. In some of the work that I've been doing, I've been talking to educators in other districts who have talked to me about how wonderful it's been for their students over time. Specifically the parts that really curtail the portions of the course to what their demographic looks like and experiences, which is really exciting. If we go through and approve the outline, at a certain point that the pilot will take off, and then after that it will become solidified at a certain point with what is, I'm assuming, not necessarily like, for lack of a better term, a beta version, but like the version that we'll be offering. Will that come back for board approval, or is that once we set it in motion, it goes?
So it's not required to come back for board approval, but as you guys know, when you want to see something, we bring it back. We let you see it. And I do want to clarify, yes, it'll go from like beta to firm, but to be honest, with curriculum and with changing demographics, it's always going to be changing. Sure. We're always going to be developing and trying to make it the best it can be and stay modern.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so the next part is talk to me about why it's so important for ninth graders specifically to take it, as opposed to allowing it to be an elective for anybody in the school.
So a lot of that has to do with master scheduling. So when you're doing master scheduling, and it's sort of one of those puzzle pieces. I love it because I love a good puzzle, but imagine it as this giant tile game that you have to try to put together to put the pieces together. Most of the electives in high school are a year-long elective, except for that freshman year. You have, right now, we have college and career planning, so you have that CCP, and then it bounces back with the health for a semester, so they flip-flop. We're able to, because a lot of our health curriculum has gone into the biology courses, we're really able to look and condense that CCP and that health curriculum into one semester combined, taking the best of both. and then put that ethnic studies on the other semester of that. That CCP is really important for them to get their freshman year and get them prepared. And I do think this will be a benefit for the freshmen. I think it'll be good for them to go in, to build these relationships, and especially since they won't have those relationships with the high school teachers yet, maybe not with half of the students. This can really help them build those. But a lot of it is master scheduling wise and tracking, since it'll be a graduation requirement. It's, we have to certify, like, when Mr. Clifford at the end of the year at graduation says, I certify these meet the state of California and Glendora Unified Board requirements, we have to go through and our counselors look at every single one. So it's ease for that as well.
Got it. And the CCP course and the health course are required? Are those required courses or they're not required courses?
Not per state, but per Glendora Unified graduation requirements, yes.
Got it. And they still meet the qualifications being combined?
Yes.
Okay. One of the speakers tonight, I thought, asked a very important and really interesting question about if there's a conditional course available if families don't want their student taking this. Would that be potentially possible during this pilot period?
I would have to work with Mrs. Norrell on the logistics of that, the tracking and what would they do, because when you have CCP and health combined into one, if you gave students the other option, you can either take ethnic studies or CCP, then they're taking CCP again as half of the other semester. So it's a good quarter of repetition. So we would really have to work on the logistics. In the long run, AB 101 does not allow for an opt-out for it. Like, I know they do that for different requirements, but for this one, it's like taking 4 years of English or, so it's, there's no opt-out version on that one.
Okay. My concern is that we go forward with all of this and the governor does not appropriate funds. And we have now taken two courses that I'm assuming are beneficial to our students. We've slammed them together and we've forced our freshmen to take a course that has taken away from an elective or something that they may also really benefit from. I'm not saying that this course wouldn't benefit our students. I think it would. But I'm wondering, I feel like we have been talking about a financial stabilization plan. We've been talking about not faculty, but individuals that we've had to make difficult decisions on recently. And to implement something where we're kind of told that there might be a carrot at the end of a string that would help us with the funding, but hasn't happened yet, is frustrating. And so that all weighs very heavily on me, to be frank. There's a lot to that. And, I mentioned earlier, Trustee Garcia had said that she thought this course was very important and she would like her students to take a course like this. But in this setup, that would not be possible. And so that's kind of frustrating too, is the idea that we may be depriving our seniors, juniors, and sophomores who want to take a course like this from something like this. So it's hard because in this one vote it seems like it all comes down to the curriculum, but I feel like there's a lot of things attached to that curriculum in the implementation, in the financials, in how that's going to happen. If the curriculum isn't adopted, or I'm sorry, if the outline is not adopted tonight, what happens? I mean, what does that look like?
Well, we kind of hold it on pause for a little bit there because of the registration timelines at GHS. If we wait until May to see if the governor appropriates funds for it, we wouldn't have time to implement it at that time. So we would basically kind of see if we could hash everything out, come back to the drawing board for the following year, which would be necessary to put us in compliance for our graduates of 29-30 to have a valid diploma. It would take away the pilot year opportunity, though, where you're really getting that feedback and refining it before you go mandatory with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I trust our teachers. I was telling somebody earlier, I trust our teachers, not in the sense that I trust our teachers, but I've been in their classrooms and I know these teachers. I believe in these teachers and I know, how great they are. That part doesn't bother me. The curriculum and the pilot part doesn't bother me. I actually think it's an opportunity for us to really expand this into something that's really exciting for our students. But man, those two hangups are really, and I think, obviously there are board members that have different hangups. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to weigh all that across. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Any other questions before we bring it back for discussion? Which I think we've had a little bit of too.
One question I have is, we brought up the term, what's bothering me is the term intersectionality. Because I know, I've been, people have reached out to me, it's a critical race theory, it goes to not towards ethnic studies. I trust the teachers, I feel it would be projected that way, but it's written, and so when it's in a writing, that makes me a little nervous. I feel like we're rushing this a little bit. That's my little hesitation of just adopting the curriculum. I just feel if it was a different word choice of it, because we're dealing with ethnic studies, races, African, Latinos, whites, but now we're talking about gender, it includes social justice, includes different areas, and so it just makes me a little nervous just hearing that word. I'm not sure how the other board members feel about that. I don't feel our teachers would do that and go on a limb on that, but this is a pilot program, but things could be transcribed 10 years from now. We don't know where the world's going, so I get nervous having that language in there, personally. So.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. So before we have the discussion, is there a motion? There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to approve and by Garcia and a second from Director Lopez. Now we'll bring it back for discussion. I had no questions.
Can the public make a comment?
No, it's okay. No, not that we're squashing the public's comments, but we had those, and you'll have an opportunity to do that again at the next public comment. So I had no questions because I have comments of my own, but look I trust our executive cabinet, our staff, and our teachers emphatically. I'm not a huge fan of the state government coming down to our local government, and I had issues with this in 2011, long before I was on this board, or when AB 101 was it 2021, I think, not 2011, 2021. I don't see, like, different than some of the board members' comments that I heard, I don't see ethnic studies, a program that I need to implement in my school district to help the students thrive academically. I can't make that connection that other people have made. I struggle very much, I have a deep struggle with the outline and how the outline can manifest to curriculum, and I took my own time and met separately and went over the outline line by line and tried to get as much of it changed to where I could field a level of support, which I don't currently have. I will come out front and say that. Based on that, I probably looked at 3 different versions that got better every time, and I appreciated the time and effort. But I think that the course being presented is I think it would be a great college level course or a community college course, but I think it's a little rich for K through 12 and for students, especially freshmen. I struggle with about getting moving from middle school to the high school, and I could see it in the latter years, but I'm not there tonight on this, and I think maybe eventually, but my biggest concern is, there's a lot of state mandates that come down, a lot of state mandates. And it's my responsibility to look at the state mandates, and otherwise I wouldn't have a vote. Like, what do you think of this mandate? And there's several state mandates that are put on this school district and other school districts that I think have nothing to do with the educational process, and they're there for other reasons that may be political, may be social. I don't know what they're for, but I'm really focused on mathematics, science, reading, and the mental well-being of our students while they're doing those things. And as you can see, our scores, I just struggle with it. I struggle with bringing the pressure and the advocacy to bring this on so quickly. I'm not ready to vote for it because quite frankly, I can't support the entire outline and I'm not sure where it'll go. And I want to say that I read every detail of the emails I have. I talked to, some of the members that wanted me to talk to them in the commission, both teachers and, community members. I really appreciate the evidence and testimony that I heard tonight. I was hoping that someone might have something that could help me jump on the support bandwagon. But I have a huge list of things. I don't need to read them off, but I really believe that my seat here is to exercise local control in the way I see it best for Glendorans. I struggle with some of the language that's in the outline. I think it would be, if someone were to tell me that critical race theory was not intertwined in that outline, I would think that they were telling me a fib. I just don't see it that way. I see several elements in every unit that have correlations to what I would consider to be critical race theory, and that's not a concept that I support in K through 12. I think that there's undergraduate and graduate and doctorate level classes that would do very well with that, or maybe an elective that a high schooler could take at a junior college, should their family and them agree that that would be an appropriate thing. But I'm just not a fan of that. So from a standpoint of all that I've said, for my role, where the trust is the other way around, that I would hope that Glendorans want to trust me to look at these state mandates and say, gee, is this a mandate that I really think we need to put into place? I could give you an example of a lot of others that I truly don't think should be in place, but that's not what tonight's about. Tonight's about this one. So I am not a vote to support the item as presented with the motion. And, I have a bunch of other notes, but I'll take a breather and let somebody else speak to their position on it.
So just to talk a little bit about the state, the mandate, it's a curriculum that comes from the state. All of our frameworks come from the state. Okay, our literacy standards come from the state. Our math standards come from the state. The literacy standards are all supposed to be taught cross-curricular, right? So we teach the standards cross-curricular. But everything that we have, all the curriculum that is not always the top curriculum, but all the frameworks we get, everything that we get is governed by the state anyway. This is no different. It's another course coming down from the state, and it is ethnic studies. When you start thinking about this, it makes a difference for reading and writing, and maybe not so much math, is the content standard, the literacy standard that is attached, right? So when you look at literacy standards, it's teaching it. There are a set of skills that go with it. So whether that's examining documents or being able to write an argument statement for one side or the other, those are the literacy standards that go along with a course, with all of our courses. So just to clear up that, it is a course that came from the state, but all of our courses have come from the state and are governed by the frameworks and the standards that we teach.
Right, but they all have to come they all have to be approved by somebody, correct? They just, some local board looks at them and says, hey, I think these are appropriate for literacy, there's some connection to the local board, like, we did this, and now we're bringing it to you. It's our choice what to do with the next step, is all I'm saying.
I'm not sure when the frameworks are sent down to us, that we're going through a board approval process for a framework or the content standards.
I would like to add a little bit in response to something you said, President Clifford, about you don't see the need for offering this type of class in our district. I would beg to differ. As a Latina in Glendora, I feel it would be very valuable and beneficial to our 48% of Latinos in this district, to have a class that addresses the contributions of their people in our history and just in our everyday life in this community. And when we talk about students having a sense of belonging in this community, in this district, you know, to have this exciting new class that presents history and just society with this different lens that they haven't seen it before, it could be a way of just keeping our students engaged and connecting with each other in a different way and understanding the differences that just make us, you know, who we are here as a collective. I grew up in a community where it was 50% African American and 50% Latino. It was crucial that I understood the Black community and their culture in order for me to share a classroom with them, break bread with them during lunch hours. It was just part of what we did. And we didn't have ethnic studies as a class. It was just, and again, we're talking about 100 years ago. But it was just part of what we did because it was so important. And I think the reason the state has had to mandate this is because there are districts who've been doing this for a very long time, who have seen the need and have implemented it because it has served their population. And so they've just done it on their own accord and have seen the benefits of that community building. And there's other districts who haven't done it because don't see the benefit of that. And therefore, it needs to be mandated to some degree. We 100% have local control because we get to dictate, we get to, as a community, come together and create this curriculum that works for our community, for our district. And we've done that. We've done that work. And so I feel comfortable knowing that, you know, it's going to be catered and it's going to be sensitive to our demographics. And I think that goes a long way. But maybe it's hard for you to understand that need, not being a person of color, and I don't mean any disrespect in that. It's just, as a woman of color in this community, I think it's so important that we find ways to have those conversations, you know, in a safe place, in the classroom, directed by a teacher where we can have these conversations. I think it's important. I think ninth grade is actually, I think second grade is a good time to have those conversations, if I'm being honest. But ninth grade, in a very, you know, fun, informative, educational way, with these parameters of keeping our students safe, where they all feel like they're being heard and they're, I think it's important, extremely important, and I think it'll be a disservice to our community and to our students going forward if we decide that this is not something we want them to have, this experience, this type of community in our district. And we'll be falling behind because Azusa, Charter Oak just brought it to their board. All the districts around us understand the value of this course. And so if we want to be leaders, if we want as a district to be innovators and leaders and really be ahead of that, we need to take that into consideration as well.
Do we know if those districts have utilized the same formats that we're doing?
I do not know. I cannot speak to them. I'm happy to do the research, but I'm sure they too, because they also represent their community, have considered. And maybe for some of these districts, taking a cookie cutter curriculum works for their district, right? Just because it's you know, it's going to work. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because looking at the way that these are implemented across multiple districts, whether it be, you know, because I mean, some districts have multiple classes that meet the requirement, but it's one of, you know, there's 7 that are available. Some districts, the students don't even know, it's just embedded in their freshman English class. And so I think really the discussion, and I'll speak for myself again, I think the discussion is more about how do we implement this appropriately and effectively so that it has the opportunity for success, as opposed to, we need to hurry up and get this in now for a pilot. And so that's kind of a really big aspect to this. I think that it does make sense that multiple cultures should be presented to our students. People's experiences should be presented to our students. They should have lots of opportunities to learn that. Whether or not your 9th grade class is a safe place or not is up for discussion. And that's really hard. You know, it's like, I mean, I was part of an accreditation committee when I was in school, and the APA had mandated that we all have 52 sessions of therapy. And when they came out, they said, we don't know that that's appropriate. Because number one, you have students that are in a high stress situation that may be uncovering a lot of stuff that is not appropriate for them. And number two, there may not be data to support the difference between 52 or 40 or 20 or 15 sessions of therapy. I mean, when I was doing a deep dive into the research that I could find, it doesn't seem like there's any comparative literature on the difference between a 9th or a 10th or an 11th or a 12th grade implementation. And especially when I'm hearing that there are students in lots of different aspects that do want to take this course, then I think we're doing if we implement this the way it is presented tonight, part of me worries that we're doing a disservice to our sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Part of me worries that we're doing a disservice to our incoming 8th graders. And part of me feels like we may be doing a disservice to our long-term success of this course.
Thank you. I do believe that that is why we had these committees to discuss these things, and that's why we trust the educational experts in our district to decide whether or not we are ready to move forward. I truly believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that if you felt it was not a good time, if the curriculum is not ready, we don't have the right staff, it would be a disservice to our students, you would not be bringing this forth today. Right? That is why it is your recommendation, this is what you read, that we approve this model, what was it?
Model outline.
The outline,
Curriculum
thank
outline.
you. Because you've done the work, you've done the research, you guys have put in the work to determine that, okay, we're ready to go, right? It's in the, I disagree with you that it has been rushed. We've been working on this for a long time.
Absolutely.
Not rushed at all.
Absolutely.
And so maybe it feels rushed to you because if you're new to the board, I
Yes,
can
absolutely.
100% understand that. But nonetheless, that's why I mentioned that we have had plenty of time as board members to, meet with the people, the powers that be that have done the work, because they have put in the work and they can't wait until, if I'm done in 2 years, then comes another person who's only been on for 6 months, and they're gonna feel like they haven't had enough research. And so we trust the people that have been doing the research for this X amount of time, which has been 2 years now, almost 2 years?
It's gotta be more than
2
that, right?
years.
For 2 years for you.
2
Right,
years
2
for
years
me,
for her.
and then there was prior administration had started the work.
So the community committee has been convening for 3 to 4 years?
Yes, yeah, I've been with them for 2 years, and I believe they were a year and a half before I came in.
I think tonight was the first time I heard a community member from the committee come and say, this has been great. And that's another hesitation I must admit, right? We've had numerous people that I know by name who have come up and spoken for literally since before I was on the board about, I don't feel like we're being heard. I don't feel like the changes that I'm bringing up are making sense. It's hard because with a committee that doesn't have a criteria for leaving that committee, essentially, to play devil's advocate, I don't think that this has happened, but to play devil's advocate, we could have the committee meet for 4 years and literally take no recommendations that they have and just move on and say, we included our stakeholders. Not that you've done that, but.
Just to clarify,
Yeah, no.
we went back with numerous
Right. No, I
revisions,
know,
and there
I know.
were lots of
And I've
feedback
even, I've
taken.
even seen those over the past, I haven't been on, like, as you brought, I haven't been on the board that long, but I've seen those revisions as well. So I appreciate that, and I know you have done that. But that part is, something that, and at this point, I've had some hearsay about our teacher committee that they've really appreciated, that, it's been good, but I haven't talked to them, and I don't know them, right? Just like I haven't talked to the community committee either. So, there's some things that are worrisome about this time period. Now, I have to also ask on the other end, it's not rushed, it's been 4 years, but then why wasn't it approved 2 years ago? Why wasn't it approved 3 years ago?
I think because the process required this amount of time to do the committee work and all that stuff. And so now it has to be, we want a year. Clearly, it could start next year, but then we don't have that pilot year,
Right.
which has been determined that is very crucial for the appropriate implementation of the program so that we get the feedback that we want in order to cater that curriculum to what Glendorans want, right? Get that feedback from our students. I feel not having that year is going to be a disservice because that's what we want. We want feedback. We want to hear what our students thought, what the teacher thought. They may add things, they may pull things, they may say, like you said, there's certain things that just we thought were going to be great, but ended up not being great. Again, I think there's got to be some trust in the professionals, not in this case, Dr. Prince, who has been spearheading this, and she's the educator and has been with our district, for many years. I won't say how many. And there's got to be some level of trust in that. And I know there's a lot of mistrust in some of the words and this and that, and I get it. I completely respect that. And that is why, for me, it was important that let's break that down and really define what does that word mean, and why are we so scared of it? Why are we so concerned with, what it may, if a child does identify as LGBTQ, it is who they are. It is who they are. And if they stand up in the classroom and say, I am a white, female, LGBTQ, first daughter, immigrant, whatever it is, all those things make that person who they are. And to say that, you can't say that. You can't say that that's what makes it's, I'm sorry, it's not okay, because it is who they are. You may be uncomfortable with it. You may not want to hear it, but at the end of the day, that person deserves to be seen for wholly who they are, 100% for who they are. And if that identification is part of who they are, which is not the focus of the class, let me remind you, at all, but if they happen to say that that is something, because guess what? Society is treating them differently to some extent. Because of one of those identifications, their experience is different than yours, than mine, than hers. And so it is who they are. It is how they identify, because it is how society sees them. So those intersections of those different components of their life, of who they are, how they identify, are extremely crucial and should all be heard, and they should be seen for every component of that.
Can I ask because I know, Paul, one of the things that you brought up, I'm sorry, Trustee Lopez. One of the things you brought up is how important the pilot year is. I mean, I also have to say that I feel like I trust our teachers so much that had they not had a pilot year, our students would be successful, their classes would be successful, they would meet the requirement, and we could put this on a little bit of ice to figure out what's going on.
Well, but I'll go back to speaking to the timeline.
Okay.
So we knew years ago that we had ethnic studies, that was gonna be a graduation requirement for the class of 2030. So one of the things we had was time. We had time to figure it out. There was time to put a community committee together. There was time to put a teacher committee together to discuss this, to get however many different iterations we have, how many adjustments we made to the wording, the verbiage, everything. And we took this time. And I think it was the smart way to go. We didn't do it 2 years ago because we weren't ready. Now we're at the point where we're ready. We have studied it. Our community's looked at it. Our teachers have looked at it. And it's ready to go, and the fact that we have to do a pilot, or we should do a pilot, will strengthen the work that we're going to do over the next few years. Sometimes it's hard to come in just with a graduation requirement and not do any kind of pilot, and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. I don't think in this situation we are. I think we're at the point where we're ready to go. And so we knew years ago that this was going to happen. So it's just, we're at that point right now. And so it has to be implemented, because kids in a year from now, after we pilot, they have to get a diploma. And the only way for them to get a diploma is to take the ethnic studies course. So I think we'd be wise to get going with it, let it go, and see the pieces that work and don't work, and there may be different iterations that come out of the whole process. And that's just the way education works, right? It evolves. And we want to stay current with all the stuff that we're doing. And if there's any demographic changes or what's happening, then we move and we evolve to stay current with who we are as a community and who we are as a school. So.
Well, just to reiterate, I do believe there is a need for ethnic studies. I mean, as far as it's mandated by the state, we got to follow that. But we're at the point of, we're looking at our own outline that we're designing. I'm a Latino. I do believe that would be beneficial, but it's being taught at the 9th grade level. Those are ages, what, 13, 14 years old? 14, some are 15, right? Some are held back for sports. It's all, could be, right? But, yeah, so I do feel there's a need for ethnic studies. I know that, there's possible funding available for the school. It could be beneficial. But when we're dealing with race, when we're dealing with family values, we have to look at this strictly. looking at that outline, I mean, if it just said maybe who I am, the history of my origin or the culture, I might be just more inclined to say yes. That's where I'm at right now. I do believe there's a need for it. I don't want to shame any LGBTQT or anyone with gender issues or their identity issues with that. I don't want to infringe on that, but it's an ethnic studies course. I took ethnic studies in college, and I don't remember seeing that language in there. And so that's why I'm having trouble with it. And I went to a very liberal school. I went to Oregon my first year. I took that class, and they didn't teach me that. And so that's why I'm struggling with it, because they just, why is it, this is Glendora. This is my community. I was born and raised here. I know this community very well. And I do believe it's diverse now. It's changed. There's a lot more Hispanics, Asian American. The population is changing. So I do feel that the community could benefit from it. But I just feel like we just need to just especially with this pilot program, get it right. I know that it's been implementing for 2 years, and me and Dan are at a disadvantage because we're new board members. But just looking at the outline, it just makes me nervous. I don't know.
Look, when you first started, Trustee Garcia, first off, I appreciate your comments, and I support a large percentage of what you said. However, some of the things that you said in your comments are exactly why I'm not ready to do this. I think that somebody needs, I'm one of 5, and I'm comfortable with saying, bring me something with bookends on it that I could support, and I could support it. I don't think there's anything wrong in front of a board, listening to evidence and testimony, having a different opinion. And I think some people were saying that it is wrong if I don't have that, and I'm depriving people of it. I would say the opposite. Somebody needs to bring something to me that I feel comfortable in my role supporting. And I think that's an equitable thing to say. I'm not comfortable with ethnic studies, identity, and intersectionality. I'm not comfortable with having that discussion in curriculum that people are graded on. And we have the discussions that you brought up now, and we work through those now. I am not an advocate for supporting the outline that's in front of me. That's a fair evidence and testimony statement. And if something was in front of me that I could read and support, it wouldn't be an issue. As an example, some places, and I think the man next to me could opine on this, have changed the title from ethnic studies to something different, or they have made this incorporated in an English literature class, or they have done something different. I just want to be clear. I'm not supporting this for many of the reasons that you said I should, for the reasons of, I know that I am not a brown person. As you said, I was a Caucasian. I think a Caucasian person who isn't mentioned in any of these outlines could easily support an ethnic studies program if presented. I can't support the one that's in front of me tonight. It doesn't mean I can't support one that is in front of me in 2 weeks or in a month, but I think in my role, it's equitable for me to say, hey, I don't support this one. And I gave specific feedback for something that I could support. And if it's not in front of me, I think that it wouldn't be good for me to say, okay, I'm okay with it, because I'm not okay with a few of the units, and there's a lack of bookends for me as far as what I perceive this curriculum could be. And as far as state mandates for, this is just an example, but the state mandates that a boy that identifies as a girl can play in girls' sports. I would never have voted for that. I just don't think that that's equitable to the girls that want to play sports. And if I play a sport with another gender, they could be much better than me at that sport. But just because I'm a different gender, I have some advantages in strength and height and other things in those particular things. And I would have voted no on that too. There's several things that would, as they came to me as a board member, I would not have supported. And I'm just putting that in perspective when someone says, oh, this is what the state's doing and this is what the state's telling us to do. I'm like, okay, then it's incumbent to come back to me and put some bookends on it so I can support it. and simply stated, this outline is loose on the ends, too loose for me. And it's the first time I've seen it from a standpoint of having to vote on it. I saw it maybe, I don't know, maybe a month ago and worked diligently to try to get to this point. Asked it to be put out to the public so they could look at it and give feedback to us. And that's just how I feel about it. It doesn't mean that I don't support any of the programs that we've talked about tonight. It just means that this particular outline doesn't have my support because I don't feel that it's framed well enough to create curriculum that I want to support in our district. And I don't know if I probably could say that better, but that's how I feel inside. So rather than just say, oh yeah, we have to do it, it's something that we have to do, I don't feel compelled that's my role. My role is to try to give feedback and listen to evidence and testimony and try to create an ethnic study program that I feel will have success long-term, regardless of the executive cabinet that put it together, the teachers that'll teach it, and the external influences that could come in. And that's my my greatest concern. Like what are the boundaries and the things that are in place when it comes to the actual administration, or you know, you have the technical and book part of this, and then you have the implementation of it. And I am not ready for the implementation of this outline. That's my end statement for that. So, I mean, this is what the discussion is for. I haven't heard anything that changes my mind about how I feel about it. I have heard some things that made me feel other ways, but I'm not ready to support this outline to say, okay, now go create curriculum over it. There's still some bookends that I would like to see in it that aren't insurmountable, but they're not presented to me tonight. I have no further discussion on that unless something else comes out in discussion. Yeah, so I mean, we can do a roll call vote on this, Madam Clerk, if you don't mind. But if we've had all the discussion that we're gonna have, we've listened to the evidence and testimony. Let me X out of the outline so I can get back to where we were. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the Ethnic Studies course as outlined. There was a motion by Garcia and a second by Lopez to approve it. Could you please do a roll call vote?
Vote for Member Munoz. No. Vote for Paul Lopez. I'm sorry, Vice President Lopez.
Yes.
Vote for Member Garcia.
Yes.
Vote for President Clifford.
No.
Vote for Clerk Cam.
Not at this time.
Okay, what I heard was a 3-2 vote not to support the recommendation to move forward with the Ethnic Studies course as outlined today. So let's bring it back, or let's have a, you know, like you said, there's other meetings and other presentations, so let's do some work on it and see if we can gain support to move forward with it. I think that's the end of that, correct? All right. That takes us to items, thank you very much. That takes us to item 7, which is the consent items. Now, those items are 8-1 through 11-3, and they can all be handled with one vote. There's a lot of items there. I wanted the public to know that it's interesting, and I really appreciate our business office. There's about $280,000 in Section 8. There's about $10,300,000 in Section 9, and there's about $800 in Section 10. So the compilation is about $11.5 million of stuff, mostly in the business services part that have to do with payroll warrants for our certified and our certificated and classified employees. So I just wanted to say that the money that was that we're voting on tonight. That being said, Is there a motion, or does anybody want to pull any of those items?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposition? So the consent calendar passes. Thank you. And that takes us down to item number 12.1, which is adjournment. It's 8:36. We appreciated the 6 o'clock start. Thank you very much. And that will adjourn our meeting.